And as a star, there was nothing Michael couldn't imagine.
As he becomes more famous, he starts to develop this philosophy that he wants to create a more limitless world for himself. So he doesn't want any boundaries at all. He doesn't want boundaries of race. He doesn't want boundaries of gender. He doesn't want any boundaries on his music. He doesn't want any boundaries on how much money he can spend on anything, certainly not his creative visions. He doesn't even want any boundaries on his own facial structure.
Over the next several years, a series of plastic surgeries will transform his physical appearance.
Michael Jackson's been overhauled more than the Statue of Liberty. This is how he looked before the nose job, the chin job, and the eye job.
Michael's face became another one of his artistic creations, but his skin actually got lighter because of a medical condition, one he kept secret until his mid-30s. Michael was suffering from vitiligo, a skin disease that caused white blotches on his face and body. Then in 1984, a calamity brought him new physical problems.
We were filming a Pepsi commercial for the Victory Tour, and they were using pyro, and Michael had hairspray in his hair, and one of the sparks from the pyro landed on Michael's head and caught him afire. He was screaming out my name, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get to him quick enough.
Michael was hospitalized and put on painkillers for months. He was left with scars that would require more medical treatments in the future and more painkillers. When he returned to the public eye, he seemed to push the boundaries even more.
It's not everybody who tries to buy the Elephant Man's bones and travels with a pet chimpanzee.
Michael played with the press. He was having fun with publicity and trying to come up with ways to get more attention. But ultimately it backfired. I mean, I think the public sort of said, this guy is weird.
Wacko Jacko.
He hides in his room afraid.
Persistent rumors that followed
His
him.
bizarre behavior.
Constant source of interest to the paparazzi.
We talked about the press in 1997. How do you feel when they call you
Wacko Jacko.
It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
There are those who would say that you add to the attention.
No, I don't.
Well, the masks, the mysterious behavior.
There's no mysterious behavior. Maybe I like to live that way. I like to dress that way. I like to dress that way, you know? You should not say he's an animal. Should not say he's Jacko. I'm not a Jacko. I'm Jackson. I have a heart and I have feelings. I feel that when you do that to me. It's not nice. Don't do it.
As public love turned to public ridicule, Michael became even more isolated by his own fame.
I can't take a walk in the park. I can't go to the store. I have to hide in a room. You feel like you're in prison.
Do you think it's the paparazzi, the celebrity, the tabloids, the public? Who?
The public is fine.
They buy the tabloids.
They buy the tabloids. So don't buy it. That would shut them down. To make ugly stories and gossip and rumors and to be vicious and evil and ugly, that is garbage. Don't buy it. Don't buy into it and don't believe it.
If you could, turn off the fame, turn off the paparazzi, have a normal life, would you do it? Even if it meant giving up performing?
I'd do it. I'd have to be able to create. I have to create something. I would rather die if I couldn't create. You can't shut me down. I have to give it out.
Michael's escape was Neverland, a 3,000-acre ranch with a private theater, a zoo, and carnival rides. It was perhaps his fantasy of childhood, the one he never had. Michael's nephew, TJ, his brother Tito's son, often visited Neverland. What was it like being with Michael at Neverland?
Magical. Time stood still. It was a lot of fun. We'd watch movies, we'd play games, we'd throw popcorn at each other. At that time, I think my brothers and I felt like our role was just to let our uncle have fun.
In Neverland, Michael could be a child again with other children.
he started to get advice during this period from his advisors who would say, you know, Michael, when you're hanging around with these kids and spending this much time with these young boys, eventually, with the kind of money and clout that you have, someone's going to sue you. And Michael's response to that was, but it's beautiful. You know, why would anybody do that?
But Michael would find out soon that the world did not see things the same way he did.
One of the most famous people in the world is in the middle of a personal and professional nightmare.
What's the biggest misconception about him?
That he's a molester.
Let's get into that when we return. Thriller made Michael the biggest star on the planet. That success allowed him to live in a world of his own making. He traveled with a huge and exotic entourage. It included Bubbles the Champ, Liz Taylor, and the child stars Macaulay Culkin, Brooke Shields, and Emmanuel Lewis. In his travels, Michael would also form close, lasting relationships with people he happened to meet, bellboys, drivers, fans, people he was introduced to at parties. His dermatologist nurse, Debbie Rowe, became a friend and confidant for decades. There were always children around, too. 13-year-old Geordie Chandler traveled with Michael, accompanied by his mother and sister. They became a new, ready-made family for him. But it would end badly. In 1993, Evan Chandler, Geordie's father, accused Michael of molesting Geordie.
Michael Jackson is the subject of a criminal investigation.
Chandler hired a lawyer and threatened to sue. He wanted a trust fund for Geordie, then a screenplay deal for himself. Michael sent a message out to the world.
I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me.
The story had broken while Michael was on a world tour for his album Dangerous. The shows were sold out, but Michael became more and more distraught over the allegations. He began taking painkillers, then canceled the tour. With his health deteriorating, his friends and lawyers urged him to settle, and he did, for a reported $21 million. Santa Barbara DA Tom Sneddon convened 2 grand juries. They both found no evidence against Michael and refused to indict him. But the case would continue to haunt him. What's the biggest misconception about him?
I think one of the greatest is that he's a molester. That's the greatest.
Let's get into that.
I know 1,000% there is nothing negative or wrong with my uncle. The world and the media turned that into something a lot more dark.
Lisa Marie Presley urged him to settle the Chandler case. Their friendship had turned into a romance, and they wed later that year. Many believed their marriage was a sham.
Nobody thought this would last.
Lisa Marie said it was a real romance, but there was one problem. Michael wanted to start a family right away, and Lisa Marie didn't. After 2 years, they divorced. Michael was afraid that despite his successes, he would never have children. Then his longtime friend, Debbie Rowe, offered to carry his baby. Michael's first child, Prince Michael, was born in 1997. There was widespread speculation that Michael was not the biological father of Prince or his other 2 children, Paris, born in 1998, and Blanket in 2002. Whatever the truth, Michael loved his children. Do you like being a father?
I love it.
Are you very involved with him?
Yes. When he's crying, to keep him from crying, you have to do one thing.
What?
I have to stand in front of him and dance.
Really?
Yes. And he stops crying. His tears turn to laughter. And he starts happy. He smiles.
And do you do your moonwalk with him?
Yeah, I do all kind of move. You move, and then he... and he stops crying.
He stops crying?
Stops
you
crying.
must do a lot of dancing.
I do a lot of dancing, yeah.
You started your family around the same time that Michael started his family.
And I remember calling him and hearing the joy and the joy in his voice when he would talk about fatherhood. It excited me. It made me want to do it. I had my first son in '99, so we would talk. We would learn, you know, he'd tell me tricks about everything from changing diapers to discipline. It's funny because I hear his voice in my head a lot.
The relationship with TJ was an oasis of normality for Michael. Michael comforted him when TJ's mother, Dee Dee Jackson, died.
That is the most isolating and lonely experience. He made sure my brothers and I stayed on track. I've never forgotten that.
Later, TJ, his brothers, and Tito set up the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation to help children in need. They were inspired by Michael, who donated tens of millions of dollars to charity and traveled the world helping children affected by war and famine.
I used to remember seeing kids crying and in so much pain, and then like that, just become happy over the presence of one person.
He went to hospitals?
All the time. All the time. And he donated a lot of his income to charitable things. And for us, seeing that inspired us to do our mom's foundation.
Michael also opened up Neverland to sick children. One of those children was Gavin Arvizo. Gavin had cancer. Michael befriended him and helped the family financially, but he would soon find himself again faced with accusations of abuse, and they would create the gravest crisis in his career and life.
Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court.
When we return. Michael Jackson often invited sick children to Neverland with their families. One of those children would be his downfall. It all began with a film we aired on 2020.
Tonight, a red-hot British documentary. 8 months with superstar Michael Jackson that will leave you speechless.
That documentary shocked the world when Michael said he slept in the same bed as some of his young guests, including 13-year-old Gavin Arvizo.
The most loving thing to do is to share your bed with someone.
That was very questionable judgment on Michael's part. You know, to admit that he sleeps in the bed with children who aren't his own, and that this is a beautiful thing. People couldn't really relate to that.
Child Protective Services became concerned, and that led to investigations by the Los Angeles and Santa Barbara police departments. The boy in the documentary, Gavin Arvizo, said Michael was innocent at first. But once the investigation started, Gavin said Michael did molest him. Gavin's mother backed him up, but there were problems in her past. She had been caught shoplifting and had sued a department store for sexual assault. The LA Police Department found no evidence against Michael. But the Santa Barbara DA, Tom Sneddon, charged Michael with child molestation and sent 70 officers to Neverland to search for evidence.
2 counts in violation of Penal Code Section 222 that involves administering an intoxicating liquor to a child for the purpose of committing a felony.
Michael Jackson was officially charged yesterday in California with 7 counts of child molestation and 2 counts of intoxicating a minor so he could molest him.